Hello, welcome to day 19 of the 30-day journey to 30. And today, as we explore creativity a little bit more, I've actually been practicing my own creative process because I want to practice what I preach. And so when I first wrote out my list of like 30 potential topics for creativity, I wrote down fun, free, and movement. And I thought that those were three really great areas that we can explore creativity. Um, but as I've been taking the time to like go back through some of my books, go back through some of the materials that I've kind of collected over the year, my own life experience, I realized that those are good words, but not actually great words. So if you'd like to explore those concepts, they were free, fun, and movement. However, I think we're going to move in a different direction because the creative geniuses that be enlightened me and showed me that there are possibly better words. So, and actually, after yesterday, I paused for a second and I was like, I don't know the subsections for creativity. Like, I have no clue what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And I didn't know today's word until like 30 minutes ago. So we're running with it because this is a good word. And same thing for the next 2 days. I don't know what the next 2 days are, but I really want to practice this creative process. One, by showing up every day, and two, allowing it to show up for me. So, without further ado, are you ready for today's word? Today's word is enchantment. Yes, that's a great word. I'm excited about today's word. So I went back through Liz Gilbert's Big Magic book, and I have to give all the credit to her. If I could just read you the entire book and record it, I would. That's illegal. That's like copyright infringement, so I can't do that. But almost every single one of the concepts that I'm going to talk about for today and the next few days comes from this book, and you need this book in your life. It's called Big Magic, Liz Gilbert. Highly recommend this book. But I say that to say that a lot of the ideas that we're going to talk about are hers, and I have to give her credit. I have to give this book credit. Okay. So, enchantment. Let's start with what is it? I did a quick search through the dictionary, meaning I went to Google, and enchantment is defined as two things. One, a feeling of great pleasure and delight, and then two, a state of being under a magical spell. As long as it's a good spell, like, yes, please. I would love my life to feel magical, pleasurable, and delightful. Like, yes, that is the life that I want. 100%. Pleasurable, delightful, magical. Sign me up for an enchanted life. Like, doesn't that just sound good? She lives an enchanted life. You don't think that's a bad thing. It sounds so lovely. So let's do that. Let's live an enchanted life. So, in Liz Gilbert's book, her chapter titled Enchantment, she brought up a few fantastic points and topics, and I'm going to try my hardest to condense them and bring them to you so that we can bring you this enchanted life, bring you this enchanted lifestyle. So one of the biggest things that Liz Gilbert kind of talked about, one of the things that really stood out for me, is that enchantment is not just fairy dust. Enchantment is a place between hard work and fairy dust. Enchantment is a place in between the mystical and ordinary. Enchantment is in between the enlightened and the everyday. Like, enchantment isn't just the magicals. Like, if you think about it in those terms of a magical spell, like, yes, to live a magical life, but if it's an actual spell, someone had to like slave over a cauldron. Like, if you actually think about that, someone had to gather the candles, say the incantations, create the spell. Like, there was a trade-off there, right? Or even definition number one, a feeling of great pleasure and delight. we have to go to those places. So underneath the feeling of great pleasure and delight, it says, quotations, the enchantment of the mountains. We have to travel to the mountains if we're going to experience the enchantment of the mountains. So I think it's so important to start there, that it's not just this magical life that maybe some people lead, but it's not for me. Like I just haven't hit the jackpot. Like my fairy godmothers haven't shown up yet. No. You haven't shown up yet. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. So one of the like kind of concepts of that is the word genius. So back in the day, like back in, let me see if I can find it real quick. Back in Roman or Greek mythology, the word for the highest degree of human happiness is eudaimonia, which basically means well-daemoned. That is, nicely taken care of by some external divine creative spirit guide. Modern commentators, perhaps uncomfortable with this sense of divine mystery, simply call it flow or being in the zone. But the Greeks and the Romans both believed in the idea of an external daemon of creativity, a sort of house elf, if you will, who lived within the walls of your home and who sometimes aided in your labors. The Romans had a specific term for that helpful house elf. They called it your genius, your guardian deity, the conduit of your inspiration. I think that's such a fantastic concept. Let's unpack that. So, first off, in our modern day, we say that people are geniuses, right? And that's a lot of weight to bear. And it also means that some of us aren't geniuses, right? So, because if we're all geniuses, then none of us are geniuses. We're all the same level. Like that level's the playing field. But that's not the case. If our genius is something external to us, I don't know about you, but that feels like some weight has lifted. Like I don't have to lock myself in a room until I learn mathematical theory and quantum physics to be a genius. I just get to be a regular human being with belief in a house elf. That sounds cooler to me than studying math. So there's a few things going on there. One, it lets you a little bit off the hook, right? Like you don't have to suffer yourself to be the genius. But two, you're not off the hook because your genius doesn't just like do the work for you. Your genius is there to aid you. Your genius is there to help you along, to help you get in that state of flow. But if you're not already doing the work on a daily basis, the genius can't show up to help you. If you're not already doing that, then you can't find it. If you're not doing an activity, then you can't get into a state of flow doing that activity. See where I'm coming at from here? So, as I mentioned earlier, the concept of enchantment is somewhere in between fairy dust and hard work, right? It's not just that the genius appears and some of us are lucky and have a spirit guide and other of us aren't. It's showing up every day so that they can show up every day. I mean, maybe your genius is sitting in a corner somewhere just like waiting for you. They're just like buffing their fingernails over there like, all right, Susan, any day now. I can't wait to show you the great things we can accomplish, but can't do that until you sit down and start typing. It just blows my mind. Like, doesn't that take enchantment into more of an everyday concept? I think that's so cool. So another idea brought up by Liz Gilbert along these veins is that British physicists, say that 5 times fast, British physicist Sir Eddington once gave his explanation of how the world works. Oh, I love this. He said, something unknown is doing we don't know what. I love that. I love that. doing we don't know what. Like, I just picture this very British, we don't know what. I love that. And it really does kind of bring this concept of like, yeah, there's something working up there in the stars and I don't understand it. And the great part is that we don't have to. We don't have to. And if we dig even further in that concept of something unknown is doing we don't know what, and we don't have to know what, that means that when you sit down to type, you don't have to have this idea in your mind that you're going to save the world. You don't have to have in your mind that your dance moves are going to start a revolution. You don't have to have in your mind that you're going to write the poem that changes lives. You don't have to have in your mind that you're going to change the world. You can let go of that. You don't have to know what's happening. You don't have to. Another concept that Liz Gilbert brought up is if you're going to do your work for yourself. Do it to save yourself, not other people. Because the idea of showing up every day, being consistent, even if you don't want to, hoping that your genius shows up with you, isn't easy work. And it's sometimes we don't know why we're showing up. We just know that this is what we're supposed to be doing. Or I don't want to use the word supposed to, but once you love something, you show up consistently, even on days when you really don't feel like showing up. Kind of like marriage. You know, like some days you don't want to do the dishes, but you know that that's love. And so you keep showing up, and then your love over here, like the genius, is gonna bestow magical powers on you. So I feel like I just threw a lot at you. Even I am trying to like untangle this concept, but a few things to kind of put everything together. One, enchantment is somewhere in between fairy dust and hard work, meaning it takes both. And if you're not showing up every day, your genius can go to a different house. 2, you don't have to know why you're doing the work that you're doing. You don't need this grand salvation plan for the world. You don't need this grand scheme of anything. You just get to know that you love doing what you're doing and you show up consistently. Even on the days when you don't really want to show up. That's the part that turns enchantment into the everyday. And I love that. I love that this idea of enchantment can be every day. I love that. I love that. Okay, so before I continue trying to unravel this and then end up tangling it up more, we're going to close. And then I'm going to go read some more and hope that I find the word for tomorrow. But enchantment. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of life that I want to live. And even reflecting a little bit on that, making these videos so far has been a form of enchantment in my life. It's the showing up consistently. It's being here. It's creating it. It's doing the research. And I am getting so much in return from this. Like, my life feels a little bit more magical. And I really, really like it. And I'm wondering, what's your enchanted thing? What's the thing that you could do every day until your genius shows up? So that is enchantment. Feel free to journal that. Feel free to explore that more. Like I said, I'm going to go try and read some more and figure out what word is going to come to us tomorrow. But let's live an enchanted life. Sounds good to me.